Hello there, I'm Jan from JB Crafts, and some of you may know me from Crafter's Companion too. Welcome to my new YouTube channel. This is my very first video, so I hope you enjoy the tutorial today. And this is what we're going to be making. It's almost Valentine's Day, so I figured that would be a nice place to start. And I've popped this one together, and I'm going to go through with you how I actually made it today. So it's using a mixture of Crafter's Companion products, obviously, and some things out of my own stash as well. So we've got a 7.5 inch size card, and again, any of you that know me know that I love decorating the insides of the cards. It gives them a bit of stability. It also links them to the design on the front. So that's where we're heading in the tutorial. So I've actually chosen one of our border and corner dies. I had a little look through my stash to see what I wanted to work with, and love these. We're going to be using both elements in the project today, along with some of our ink pads. I'm going to do some colour techniques with the Harmony inks. We've got some stamping to do with the Finesse inks, along with several of our tools that I have in my stash. So let's get started then. I'm actually going to bring in the card base first. I've already pre-prepared my card base from a couple of pieces of A4 card. I've cut this down and it's just joined together in the centre to make my 7.5 inch square card. And then I've brought in a matte layer from Craft Card, and I've left quite a generous border around the outside today just for effect, and this one measures 6 3/4 inches square. And then I've brought in another piece of smooth cardstock, which is going to mat with just a fine border around on top of that for that main part of the card, and this one measures 6.5 inches square. So what we're going to do is we're going to start working on this particular element, and I'm going to bring in some of that ink, and we're going to pop some inks down on the card. So I've chosen the Chinese red. It goes nicely with that Valentine theme, obviously, and we're going to add a little bit of this to the card. I'm also going to bring in my water spritzer, and I'm also going to bring in a sponge applicator that we use for applying ink, but I've just wrapped a little bit of plastic over the top of it to give it a different technique when we pop it down on the card. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just pop a little bit of this down on my surface here, and then I'm going to add some water. Because this is a water-based ink, I'm just going to spritz it with a little bit of water to help it move around. And then literally with my little applicator, I'm just going to create a panel of ink that just comes down that left-hand side of the card. And literally all I am doing is dabbing this onto the card. But because I've got that non-porous surface, it's allowing me to create a bit more of a pattern in my ink. So that's all I want to do for that layer. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. I'm also going to bring in a smaller piece of card, which I'm going to use on the design as well. And while I've got that ink out, I'm just going to add a little bit to this one as well. So I'll give you the measurements for this one. This is a 6.5 by 1.5 inch piece of smooth cardstock. And all I'm going to do is add a little bit of ink just to one end of it. So I'm going to come about halfway across and literally just pop that ink on one end like so, and then leave those to dry for a second, so we can actually get rid of the rest of the ink now. I don't need that. Just cleans nicely off the edge of my little applicator, and then I'm just going to pop a little bit more extra water on there and clean up that excess ink so that we can continue. And then I'm going to add another layer to this. I like adding layers to this, almost sort of verging on mixed media, because we're going to add some paint to it next and bring in a different element. So the other piece of equipment that I've got with me, or another product that I've got with me, absolutely adore these. These are our shimmering watercolour palettes that we make at Crafter's Companion, and I've got the Sunbeam one here, and we're going to use this lovely praline colour, which I think tones nicely with the craft card. I wanted something that toned in with that craft card so that we'd got that little bit of look, but I also wanted some shimmer. So all I'm going to do is activate that with a bit of water, and again I'm going to use the same pieces of card and work over the top. So I'm going to bring my first one back in. Just make sure that we're dry. If there's any little elements on here that aren't quite dry, I'm just going to give them a little blot there. And then what I'm going to do is agitate the paint with my paintbrush and pop a little bit out again on my surface. And then we're going to use exactly that same technique. We're going to use that little applicator, and we're going to add this over the top of the red, and we're going to get the most gorgeous sort of shimmery element to our panel. So again, don't need to add water to this because I've already spritzed the paint, but I'm just going to come over the top with exactly the same technique and just dab a little bit into that panel. And again, I'm just keeping it about 2 inches down the left hand side here. You can see there just, and once this is dried, you'll get a gorgeous shimmery effect from it. I'm also going to add it to the narrower piece that we did as well. So I'm just going to pop a little bit more paint for me to grab on here, and a little bit more water in it, just because I've been using the paint out of there. Pop that down, and we're going to do the same technique again, just to go over the top of this one. So just sort of aiming for where the white elements are, so that we've got a bit of red showing and a bit of that lovely shimmer paint. And I'll show you those in a second when they have dried off. So we can put our applicator to one side, we can clean up the desk, and we're good to go with the next stage. So I might just have to give that a little blast with my heat tool, because I want to add yet another layer to this. I like layering things up and giving them that extra look. So I'm just going to bring in my heat tool and pop it on low so that it's not too loud, and just give this a blast to make sure that it's dry before we do the next layer, which is going to be some stamping over the top of it. Now what I wanted to do was just add some abstract design. So I've had a look through my stash and found just a little stamp that's got dots on it, and it was from a previous craft kit from Crafter's Companion. I've taken a lot of the stamps out. I found I wasn't using them properly while they were in the boxes, and I have just taken them out now so that I can get access to them. So again, I'm just going to blot any sort of damp areas off here, make sure that it's dry, and then we're going to come in with that little stamp. So I've just got, it's just a series of dots here, that's all, and then I'm going to come over the top and stamp some elements into it. So I'm actually going to go to the brown ink for this one. So I've got my stamping ink at the ready here, and I'm going to ink up the stamp and just randomly pop some of those dots over the top of what we've already done. So turning my stamp occasionally so that we get a different aspect of it, or turning my cardstock so that we can see that it's almost at a different angle. And then we're going to put some design down the centre, so I just want these peeking out of the sides. And again, to keep it all in keeping with the same idea, we're going to do the same on this little strip that's going to come as part of the decoration. So again, just a little bit here and there, just to say that we've got some elements on there, and pop that to one side. Again, make sure that we're all nice and clean here. I don't want to transfer any of the ink onto my design. And again, that should dry reasonably quickly. So the actual product here, if you haven't seen these before, these are actually really, really pretty. So we've actually got a border here, cuts out the entirety. It's got a cutting edge all the way around the outside, and we've got a matching corner. So what I've done is I've actually taken the border die and I've cut that out of some craft card. So I'm keeping with the same colour tones that we've got within those base layers, and I've just cut this out. You can see it cuts some of the hearts out, it leaves some of them whole, and I've just inked around the edge of it just a little bit to make sure that it tones in with the rest of the card. So that's going to be one of my decorations. And then I went through my stash and I wanted some sort of print to go with it, and just found a little piece of scrap. Again, any of you guys that know me know that it's a mission to use up the scraps. So this is just a piece that I had in my stash, and again, I've cut myself a couple of strips of this that we're going to use in conjunction with each other, and I've inked around the edges of those as well, just with some brown ink, just to tone it all in together. So these are going to layer up. This one's for the thinner strip here, like so, and then this one is going to come onto our main piece here. So we're going to have a vertical piece along with that beautiful border die. So we'll get these stuck down now. I'm going to bring in my tape pen and just add these on to the card front. So again, double-sided tape, whatever you choose to do, whether you're using a tape runner or whether you like to use a wet glue. And then I've just cut it at an angle at the bottom, and I want that to run down the centre, almost the centre of this panel that we've created here. So I'm just going to eyeball top and bottom, make sure it's looking straight, and pop that one into position on my card. And then, because this one's a little bit more fibrous, the craft card, I'm going to bring in my tacky glue here and just pop this one down with a little bit of extra glue. So again, I'm just going to pop dots in places and make sure that all of it's anchored, not too much, and then we'll add this one to our design. Make sure that all those outside pieces have got some glue on. And if necessary, you can always tap this off on a piece of scrap paper or something like that, but we should be good to go. And again, I want this to overlap slightly so that we've got a little bit of on the ink and a little bit of it on the patterned paper. So that's going to be the beginnings of my design there. So we'll pop that to one side, and then what I want to do is, because we've gone vertical down here, I want to bring that horizontal piece in. So I have got another strip of card to mat my layer on here, and we're going to go accordingly, like so. And this one measures 6 3/4 by 1 3/4. So again, just 1/4 inch bigger than my strip that we inked up, which was 6.5 by 1.5. And again, I'm going to pop these together. Now, because this is going onto the craft card, which is a little bit more fibrous, I'm going to go with some wet glue, and I'm going to use my all-purpose. Whenever I'm sticking cardstock to cardstock, it's nearly always the all-purpose glue for me. It's my glue of choice. So again, I'm just going to pop some on the back here, and then we're going to put this one in position on here, like so. So it's just got that nice little border that echoes the one around the main matten layer. And then again, I'm just going to take, just purely because this one's got a little fine tip on it, I'm going to use that tacky glue to stick this piece down here. So again, that one's going to come right up to the edge, more towards the bottom than the centre. Just make sure it's running straight across the bottom here, and that's going to be my design so far. So the next bit is to do a little bit of stamping. So I want to actually pop a sentiment on the end of here before we start putting any of this together. So I'm going to bring in my stamping platform, and again, I had a look through my stamps to see what was suitable, and came across one that again was from one of the craft boxes, and it said, "You make my heart flutter," which I thought was perfect for this particular design. So this is the set that I've got, and I keep this quite handy. It's got a lot of nice sentiments in that I use on a regular basis. So that's the one that we're going to pop on here. So again, I'm just going to anchor this down in place, and I'm going to bring my sentiment into that white space that I've left here at the end. So again, just try and make sure that I've got it all lined up. I'm just going to look at the main letters here and make sure that those are running in line with the top edge. And then once I'm happy with that, I can literally pick that one up, bring my stamping ink back in, which is my finesse. And I've used the pebble, I've used the brown ink, just so that it ties in again with the colour scheme. I didn't want to introduce too many different colours. So again, we can pop this one in and give that a nice little press down. transfer that ink, give it a second for it to soak into your cardstock, and then we've got our sentiment in place there at the ready. Just pop that to one side, and that bit's good to go. So I think we're about ready to start popping some of the layers together now. So I'm going to bring back in my card blank with that matte layer, and I'm going to go back to that all-purpose glue and pop these two layers together. Just with the glue there. And we're going to mat this one on top and just centre that on the front of the card. Just double check that the card's opening the right way. It'll not be the first time. Okay, and then this layer is going to go straight on top of this one. All right, so we can get that one anchored as well, and I'm going to stay with that same wet glue. If you prefer to use your tape pen, absolutely fine, or if you prefer to use your double-sided tape, whatever your glue of choice is, if you want to have a go at making this one. And again, I've just left a narrower border this time. Okay, and then this piece is going to run across so that we've got a vertical and a horizontal piece going on here. Okay, so again, I am going to go to my tacky glue for this one, just because I'm going on to different surfaces. I've got some ink, some paper, some cardstock, so I'm going to bring the tacky glue back in rather than the all-purpose, and I'm going to stick this one all the way across the card. Just make sure we've got plenty along the middle there so that it can stick down. And again, I've come up about an inch or so from the bottom so that there's a little bit of the paper and a bit of the design peeping out at the bottom. We're going to stick that one on. There we go. So we've now got that vertical design and the horizontal to complement it. And then I've got a little tub of tricks now. I've got all sorts of bits and pieces in here that I'm going to use to embellish. So I've just used some of these, were from my stash. These are a go-to set of hearts that I use regularly. I've had these for a very long time, and I've cut some of the sizes out here to use as embellishments. So I've done one in red. I've done one in a piece of cardstock that I actually painted with the same ink in the palette that we used earlier, so that praline ink. And then I've let it dry and die cut it out of here. And I've also got one done in craft card that we're going to use on that inside panel, so I'll just pop that to one side for now. I've also I'm a big fan of numbers. I get obsessed with numbers, and they have to appear on everything. So because it's Valentine's Day, I've just stamped out with some little tiny numbers the number 14 to go on here as embellishments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and pop these together now. The large one is going to come to this right hand side, and then what I'm going to do is just tuck those numbers underneath like so. So again, I'm going to do those before I stick the main heart down so that they can slide underneath, and just with a little bit of wet glue so that I can maneuver them in place. And then we're going to pop these behind. So that's the one. And then the 4, I'm just going to put them at a little angle so that they're not just stuck out straight. So again, holding this one where I want it to go, and then I'm going to have that one there. And then again, I'm going to stay with the tacky glue. Whenever I'm going on to different surfaces, it's usually that tacky glue for me. And this one's going to go and then hide this bottom bit here. So we're going to go at a slight angle like so. And then I'm going to add this one to this side like we've got here. So again, a little bit of the tacky glue. Now there isn't a massive difference in height. If you wanted to add some very narrow foam pads, you could do, but it's not a massive difference. So I've just kept with the 2 pieces like so. And then I've also got in my little dish, when you die cut the actual border, there are elements in here, and pop that underneath, where some of the hearts are die cut out. So you get a selection of different sizes. And again, I always keep those. They come in great for decoration. So I'm just going to add 1 or 2 of these in position as extra decoration. So I've actually got some cut in craft card, and I have some that are cut from that piece that I painted with the shimmering watercolour ink. And I've also got some done out of red, and I'll show you what I've used the red for in a second. So again, we're going to put 1 of them at the top of here. Okay, and then I'm going to add some of them to enhance the die cut. So again, I'm just going to go with 1 over this piece here. And then again, you know, there's not really any rhyme or reason to this. You can decide wherever you want these to go. So again, I'm going to bring some sort of off the edge here. So I'll cross the paper and onto the card. And then I've got some little tiny ones. And these are all out of that die. They're all out of positions on the die there. So we're going to pop those in place. Let's see where I've put my glue now. There we go. I'm also going to pop 1 on the bottom here. So again, just to balance it out a little bit, I've got 1 of the painted ones that matches this one. And I'm going to bring that one into the corner here. And then I'm going to choose a couple of the little tiny ones. So these are sort of from this element right up here. And I'm going to pop these at this side just to bring it all together. So again, we have got 1 in craft card at the top, and then I've got 1 from that piece of painted card. It's going to go down there. So again, that's the majority of it. And one of my signatures is always the little gems, flat back pearls, gemstones, you know, whatever it is. I have a box full, and I definitely enjoy using those. So again, I'm just going to scatter those about on my card, some of them on the design, some of them to the side of the design. I'm going to put 1 here, and I'm going to bring 1 right down to the bottom just to sort of tie it all together. So just little red flat back gems. Got to see where I've put the glue again now. So we've got 1 here, we've got 1 here, I've got 1 up at the top there, and then 1 at this side, just to finish all that section off. So you can see there we've got all those elements together. And then for the inside piece, I'm just going to stamp another sentiment on the inside. And I've cut a piece here now that is 6 3/4 square this time. This is going to be my insert for the card, and I love decorating the insides. So I'm going to bring my platform back, pop this on the inside, and I've just gone around the edge of this with some ink again to save creating another matte layer. Basically, it just saves a little bit of cardstock, and we'll get rid of the original sentiment. And this time I've got a couple of stamp sets, which again, these are all from those craft boxes, and this one actually says Valentine's Day, so we're going to put that in the center. And then I've got 1 here that says Happy. So again, we're going to mix and match. I like mixing and matching the fonts. So I'm going to look roughly for the centre of my card, and we're going to go with the Valentine's Day in the centre here. And just get that as straight as I can and about equal distance. And then the Happy, I'm just going to nestle in the top there. And again, pick those up with my platform. Bring that stamping ink back in again. I'm staying with the same ink that we've continued with all the way through the card. Give it a good inking. Transfer that to the middle of my piece of paper, and this is another piece of smooth cardstock. And then we've got our sentiment there in the middle. Pop that to one side, and then I'm just going to dress this a little bit to link it to the outside of the card, and I think we're almost there. So the die set itself had the corner die in here as well, and I've actually cut that in some red cardstock, which is where the red hearts came from. You can see there how it's die cut, and I'm going to link this by popping this on the inside like so. So we'll put that down again with a little bit of tacky glue there, just because I've got that fine tip applicator on here. Just make sure we've got all the edge pieces covered, and then what I tend to do is just tap off a little bit of the excess so that it doesn't squidge out onto the design. So maybe just on my cloth I will just give it a gentle tap, take off some of the excess, and then this piece is going to go down in the bottom corner just here. And then again, I showed you that slightly smaller heart, and I've still got some more left in here, so I'm going to pick up another couple out of here, and we'll pop all these down as extra embellishments. So again, I'm going to take the larger one first, pop that up in the corner, so this offsets what we've got going on down here. Pop this one up here, and then I've got one of the red ones that's come out of this particular die cut, and pop this one, and then also the little tiny one which was cut from that piece of painted cardstock. So again, we're just going to pop this one in as well, and then once I'm happy with all those, we can pop this inside that card, and I think we're almost there. So again, we'll pop the lid on the glue, because I'm going to swap back for this large piece going cardstock to cardstock. I'm going to swap back to my all-purpose glue, and again just get some on the back of here so that we can then pop this inside. And again, there's a nice border, and you can see now how that brown ink just lifts it from the background, and it does save you an extra layer of cardstock if you don't want to do extra matting and layering. So you can see there we've got our pieces at the front. I've got another little red one left. I think I'm just going to pop, I can't resist adding the little decorations, so I'm just going to pop a little red one on the front as well, just to bring it again all together. And I'm going to pop that one up here with these. And then I've got a small red one left. Again, just because I can use them up now, we're going to bring this one down to the bottom here and just link it all together. So I think we're just about there. If I get rid of all the things off my desk, you can see that design there for Valentine's Day. So 7.5-inch square to start with. We brought all those elements together, and then what I did do off camera was just pop some of those pieces together on my envelope, including one of those lovely wax seals, and this is all good to go then, ready to the recipient. Okay, so thank you for watching today and joining me. If you've enjoyed what you've seen today, please consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you soon.